These are not normal times. We have a president who doesn't think that the rule of law applies to him, aided and abetted by a Supreme Court in their immunity decision. So what we have is a president who will go after anybody, including countries, corporations, law firms, anybody who he thinks can stand up to him. Basically, he is setting things up so that he can extort from them what he wants. And it is more than sickening to know that the people who are supposed to be standing up for the rule of law, I would say the lawyers, judges in our country, and we see many of them just, I would use the word caving, and that is why caving to the demands of this very corrupt president. So, Rachel, Ms. Cohen, thank you very much for having the courage and for you to note that, it's too bad that none of the partners who are making millions of dollars at your firm would stand up to do the right thing. It's pretty pathetic. And for the 500 or so law firms that filed an amicus brief on behalf of Perkins Coie, I say aloha to them, because if we don't all stick together, we're all going to be divided and conquered. So thank you very much. And for each of you, some of you who I know worked for the DOJ, in fact, I think it's Ms. Young, you worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office, you work for the DOJ, you have a wonderful background. I remember when we had the hearing on Pam Bondi, because she has said at some point that we should go after the prosecutors, prosecute the prosecutors and investigate the investigators. During her confirmation hearing in the Senate, I asked one of the witnesses who came on the second day of her hearings, what would be an indication that she is in fact weaponizing the DOJ to exact retribution, et cetera. And this witness, who happened to be a law professor at Georgetown, my alma mater, and she said, you're going to see people resigning, and that's what's happening, or you're going to see people being fired, and that's what's happening. All is not well in the DOJ. I did want to ask a specific question of Ryan Coswell. When Deputy Attorney General Tom Blanchard came before the Judiciary Committee, I asked him about why he was allowing attrition at a different part of the criminal division, the child exploitation and obscenity section, which fights child sexual exploitation. And he responded by suggesting that only U.S. attorneys' offices really prosecute crime and downplaying the role of criminal division trial attorneys in the DOJ. As someone who worked in both the U.S. Attorney's Office and criminal division, can you explain why having criminal division attorneys in D.C. is important and what we will lose if we gut the criminal division?
Thank you, Senator. What the criminal division litigating sections like public integrity bring is a degree of expertise. Mm-hmm. So certainly there are assistant U.S. attorneys around the country that can handle prosecutions of public corruption. We have a deep bench of very talented lawyers. They're experts in this. They can go all over the nation. And you mentioned that I have been in AUSA in other districts. When I was a prosecutor in San Diego from 2017 to 2020, I was prosecuting many immigration cases. And the entire time you had a public integrity section back in Washington. Hypothetically, if I had a situation where potentially a federal agent was allowing smuggling to happen because that agent was corrupt, I could call that public integrity section and get their help in prosecuting that case. And so if you worry about corruption, if you worry about abuse of power, it's good to have 30 or so attorneys who are able to take those cases on, which also allows the U.S. Attorney's offices to focus on violent crime, immigration crimes, fraud, predation on children. That's the value of it.
So obviously, but Justice Department is not particularly interested in preserving the expertise or keeping the expertise in all these areas within the DOJ, and they have their own agenda, which is what I would not call it the people's agenda. Again, for Ms. Young, thank you, for what you are doing. And in fact, when the AG Bondi and interim D.C. U.S. Attorney Ed Martin referred to DOJ attorneys as the president's lawyers. I think you were asked this question before, but do any of you, but especially for you, Ms. Young, do you consider the attorneys at the DOJ or U.S. Attorney's Office the president's attorneys? And if not, who are they attorneys for?
Sure. DOJ attorneys are absolutely not the president's attorneys. The president is free to hire as many attorneys as he wants. Attorneys at DOJ represent the United States and the American people, and that's it.
And to think that we now have a attorney general who says she is the president's attorney, and she's certainly acting in that way. So there you go. It's just entire takeover of, I would say, an institution, the Justice Department, that is supposed to be prosecuting criminals and doing the things that I know that all of you have been asked. I can't tell what the time is there. What is that?
The time is up.
Okay. Well, that explains it. But we have so many concerns, and again, I thank each of you for resigning, being fired, doing all the things that requires a lot of courage to do. But we just need to continue to fight back.